So the first thing we're going to do is log into Azure. And then from the home page, we're going to search for the marketplace. And then once inside the marketplace, we're going to search for Lightbits. You'll see the Lightbits Cloud Data Platform. And if you click create, you'll see a few versions of Lightbits that you can deploy. I'm going to choose the most recent one. We then choose our subscription. And then we can either reuse or create our own resource group. I'm going to create my own on this occasion. We then choose the region we want to deploy into. And then optionally, we can choose to deploy the Lightbits cluster across multiple availability zones. I'm going to stick to one availability zone for this deployment, and I'm going to choose zone 1 in US East. I then give my managed application a name. And then I'm also going to give the managed resource group that a managed application is deployed in a custom name too. Clicking next, I go into my cluster settings tab. Once in the cluster setting tab, you can either choose a pre-deployed VNet, but I'm going to create my own VNet for this deployment. I'm going to customize it slightly by giving it a different name, but I'm going to leave all the IP address ranges the same as they were set by default. So once I'm happy with the VNet configuration, I'm going to click Save. And then from here, I'm going to choose the size of my VMs for this Lightbits cluster. This will dictate the capacity and performance of the cluster. I'm going to choose the L64S v3 for my Oracle database. I'm going to stick the instance count at 2. Bearing in mind that I can change this later on by adding more instances to the cluster. For SSH, I'm going to give my Lightbits nodes a username, and they're going to generate a new SSH public key, but I could reuse one that was already in Azure. Clicking next, I'm going to give my resources a prefix. This will be prefix given to many of the resources that are deployed as part of the Lightbits cluster, including the Lightbits VMs themselves. And then in the support settings, I'm going to give my name and my email address and then my phone number as well. And I'm going to allow the Lightbits support team to SSH access to the cluster in case they need to perform maintenance on my behalf. We're not connecting to AVS on this occasion, but this screen does allow you to create the Ultra Gateway with FastPass enabled and connect the express route to your AVS SDDC if you want to use the Lightbits cluster for dual purpose, for example. In the review screen, I'm going to check my settings. I'm going to agree to the terms and conditions and then click create. And then I'm going to download and create my Lightbits SSH key. And this will initiate a deployment within my Azure subscription. And I'm going to leave you here. This takes around about 15 minutes to complete, and you can monitor the deployment as it goes. Now that I have my managed application deployed, I'm going to deploy my client, my Oracle database workloads. So in the search bar, I'm going to search for virtual machines, and then I'm going to choose Create Azure Virtual Machine. Once the Create Azure Virtual Machine window pops up, I'm going to choose my subscription, and then I'm going to select the resource group that I deployed my managed application into. I'm going to give my virtual machine a name, L64S v3 C for client, and then number 1, because I'm going to deploy 2 of these. Choose the same region and availability zone as my Lightbits cluster. And then for the operating system, I'm actually going to choose RHEL 8.7 Gen 2. Now I'm going to change my instance size here. I'm going to choose, in this case, the L64S v3. However, you can choose the instance size of your choosing, including E-series VMs or whatever you use for your Oracle workloads based on your requirements. I'm going to choose the same key pair that I used for SSHing into my Lightbits cluster for ease of access. And then I'm going to enable public inbound access on port 22 so that I can SSH into this instance once it's been deployed. I'm pretty much going to leave everything else by default apart from changing the virtual network to choose the same VNet that my Lightbits cluster is deployed in. And I'm actually going to choose the same subnet that my cluster nodes are deployed in, which is the cluster subnet. I'm going to ensure that accelerated networking is enabled for optimal performance. And then from here, we can pretty much skip all the way to review and create, unless you want to change any of these settings based on your deployment best practices. So in review and create, I'm just going to review all my settings that I've enabled on the instance, and then I'm going to create this virtual machine. And again, this virtual machine will be deployed in the same VNet and subnet as the Lightbits nodes, so that this VM is as close to the Lightbits nodes as possible for optimal performance. Once I've done this, I'm going to deploy a second VM, and then we'll skip forward. Right, so I've actually deployed my second VM here, and if I move to my Oracle demo resource group, you'll be able to see my first client and my second client that I deployed, as well as the managed application that the Lightbits cluster is deployed into. If I click into this managed application, I'm going to traverse to the managed resource group that the managed application is deployed in, because here I'm going to get hold of the Lightbits JSON web token that will be used to authenticate with the Lightbits cluster. So inside the key vault, I go to IAM, add role assignment. I'm going to give myself as a user the secrets user. By default, we deny all access to secrets, and you must add yourself as a secrets user to be able to access the JOT, or the system JOT as it's called. So here I'm just adding myself as a secrets user, review and assign, review and assign. And then once my role assignment has been added successfully, I'm going to navigate to the secrets object on the left-hand navigation menu. And here you'll see all the secrets that we use within the Lightbits cluster. I'm going to choose the system JOT, select the current version, and then I can grab my Lightbits token here and copy it for use later. I'm now going to hand you off to Sagi so he can take you through the next steps.